Hi again. Okay, in this video, we're going to talk more about the syllabus and go through the required texts and assignments for the course. I just have the syllabus up here on my screen and then my camera open. See how this works. Okay, required text for the course. As I mentioned, we're going to read Ben Lerner's short essay, The Hatred of Poetry, in the first week. We're mostly interested in the second half of this essay, but it is short enough that in order to read that second half, we gotta get the whole thing. So copies of that should have been ordered into the bookstore and you should be able to get them. I don't think it costs very much, hopefully not. The other required reading is in book form is Audre Lorde's Sister Outsider. We're going to read 2 of these short essays, and so again, for copyright purposes, we have to be dealing with the whole book. I did, I believe, order copies into the bookstore, but I set it as optional so that because, as I said, the library has an electronic copy of this book, so you can just go to the library, search for this book, and then access it electronically for free. All of the other course readings will be available on Quarkus as a PDF or Word document. Most of them are already up there under files, but I'm still working on getting the complete set. I'll be doing that through this week, possibly into next week, hopefully not too long. Okay, assignments for the course. 5% is for weekly participation in our Discord server. Each week we will have a text channel set up there for you to make posts. I'll talk more about a bit about that in a second. The next part of the grade is 10% for reading responses. Again, we'll look at that later in the syllabus. We have 2 papers for the course. They are each worth 25%. The first one is a little bit shorter than the second one. And then finally, we'll have a take-home exam worth 35%. And my plan for the exam is that I will write an exam question each week and post it. So we'll have a running list of possible exam questions over the term, and then at the end of the term I will choose 5 of those essay exam questions, and you will have to write a short essay in response to 3 of them for the take-home exam. So you'll have a sense of what those questions could be as we go through the term. I will be writing them as we go through the course. Okay, I have the reading schedule here. I did talk about the topics that we'll be discussing in the previous video, so I'm not going to go through all of that again. But just to say, when I was preparing for this course, I found, possibly more than any other time, whenever I was considering putting something on the syllabus, I would read it and it would mention all of these other things, and it was like this cascading waterfall of really interesting things that we might read together. And so I decided to just mention some of those other things that I didn't decide to make a required reading, but are still kind of fascinating other readings related to these topics. Sometimes things that the required readings will mention. So I've listed those under optional further readings, and I've created a folder in files in Quarkus where these optional readings are, in case you're interested. But I want to emphasize here that they are not required. So we are already going to be reading a lot in this course. I've put a lot of reading as required. These are wonderful texts, and they're important voices, I think, to read on your own. So I wanted to ask you to read quite a bit, actually, in this course. I think that's one of the valuable things you might get out of this course, is just reading these voices. So let's do it. Let's do it together. Okay, so optional further readings. They're really optional. You don't have to do them, and so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed looking at this list. Okay. So the first paper is going to be due October 12th. That's pretty soon, but we'll talk more about that in the weeks to come. Down at the end. Okay, let's talk more about participation. So participation is worth 5%, and the first way that you can get your weekly participation grade is to post something on our Discord text channel. Each post that you make for the week, or each week when you post something, it will be worth 0.5%. You can only make 1 post a week that's worth 0.5%. You can, of course, post more than that, but only 1 of them is going to count towards your participation grade. So each week you can get 0.5% for posting something on the Discord text channel. And you need to have posted that by the end of the day Friday in order to get that 0.5% for that week's participation. If you miss it and you forget and you don't post something by the end of the day Friday, then I am not going to accept any late participation posts for this. It's worth a small enough amount that I just don't want to be chasing down everything like that. So if you miss it, you miss it. But on the other hand, it is only worth 0.5%, and also each week you have the chance to earn 0.5% by posting something on the weekly text channel, but you can that's up to a maximum of 5% over the term. So that means you can forget or miss 2 weeks without worrying about it affecting your grade. You could still get the full 5%. So another way of saying that is that you only need to participate 10 weeks out of the course to get the full 5%. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I can talk about it again if it's not clear. And then the other thing to know about the weekly participation is that it is graded for completion only. So for this part of the grade, as long as you do it, as long as you post something on the text channel for that week, an artwork, a quotation from the readings with some thoughts about it, or a question for other students, or an article or a blog post or something like that that you find that connects with the themes we're discussing, as long as you do that, by the end of the day, Friday that week, you will get the 0.5% for that part of your grade. Okay, yeah, so this is the first way that you can get that participation grade each week, is to post something to the Discord channel. And I have in the syllabus listed out those options that I just mentioned, including the fact that since we're using Discord, we can put images behind the spoiler tags and give one another the choice about whether or not we want to, when and how we want to engage with it. And I think that it's important to, from the start, do that for content that has explicit nudity or depictions of violence. We might have people in our group who would like to be given the choice about whether or not they see that. They don't want to hop into the weekly text channel and then be surprised by something of that nature. If there's something else that it would be helpful for you to have people put behind a spoiler tag so that you can have that choice, just let me know. This is a starting place for using this feature of Discord that I thought would be a good thing, because I want us to be able to post freely things that we find interesting, but I also want to be sensitive to the fact that some of us might want to have a choice about what we see. Okay. Right, you could also do a passage from a reading and explain why you find this particularly interesting or confusing, develop a thought about it to share with others. And then the last thing that you could post to the text channel for the weekly discussion is a written reflection in response to a prompt that I'll give at the start of the week for those who are going to participate in the online discussion group on Blackboard Collaborate, because that is the second way that you can get your weekly participation grade. I wanted to give you the option. You can go completely asynchronous and just post something to the Discord text chat for the week, or you can say, you know what, this week I feel like talking to other people. So for my participation, I'm going to show up to the weekly synchronous discussion group that I will run every Friday morning. Let's just go back up to the top of the syllabus and see when I said I was going to do that. Okay, the group discussion is going to be Fridays from 11 to 12 in the Blackboard Collaborate course room. So I had decided. So if you would rather meet with me, at least, I'll always be there. It might just be the two of us. Who knows? I don't know how many students will want to do this. But I wanted you to have the choice every week. You could see somebody and talk to somebody in the Blackboard Collaborate course room, or do a post to the Discord text channel. Okay, so, sorry, my phone just dinged. All right, so if you are going to participate one week in the discussion group on Friday mornings from 11 to 12 in the Blackboard Collaborate course room, in order to get that participation grade, at the start of that session, I am going to go around to everybody who's there at 11 o'clock and say, okay, everybody who would like to use this for their participation grade for the week, I'm going to give you a chance to give a response to the prompt that I will have posted at the start of the week in our weekly page in Quirkus. So you want to come to that session, if you're going to use it for your participation grade, ready to say something in response to that prompt, so that you aren't blindsided when I ask you to do so. And the way that those sessions will go is that initially we will just each have a turn to speak in response to that prompt, and no other discussion will happen there. Everybody will have a chance to speak first, and then we'll open it up to further discussion where we can pick up on one another's ideas, ask further questions, steer away and talk about other things that came up in the readings that week, etc. But we'll have a first round for the sake of the participation grade. And I talk about that in the syllabus. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the reading responses. This is worth 10% of your grade in the course, and this is for submitting 5 reading responses over the term. As I say in the syllabus, each week I will set up a Quirkus quiz for this purpose. The quiz will ask you to write a few paragraphs outlining the main ideas in one of the readings for the week and your thoughts in response to it. This will also give you a chance to check in with me about how the course is going, to ask questions, to let me know if there's something I can do that would be helpful for you, or to just generally touch base with me. There'll be like a last question that asks, how are you doing this week? You can just say anything that would be helpful to reach out to me about through that avenue. Each reading response is worth 2%, and you will receive 1% just for completing it, so just for doing it, and you'll receive 2% for providing a particularly thoughtful or thorough response that shows you understood the central ideas of the reading you've chosen to talk about and have thought about them a bit for yourself. So that one is graded, but on a very coarse scale. It's just, and you will always get 1% just for having filled out the quiz. The reading responses are due by the end of the day, Thursday. And once again, just like with the participation, no late reading responses will be accepted. You do have multiple opportunities to do this over the term, since you're only doing 5 of them over the course of the 12 weeks. Well, 11 weeks really, because the last week I don't have a reading assigned. Still, it's kind of like every other week you need to do one of these. So if you miss one, then you can hopefully make that up in a later week. That is a reason not to leave it to the last 5 weeks of the course. Then you haven't given yourself any buffer room in case you forget or you're too late submitting it. So try to do a few of these kind of in the first half of the course, just to give yourself a little breathing room through the tail end of the course. Continuing with the syllabus, our late policy, late papers will be penalized 3% per calendar day, including weekends, past the deadline. If you didn't ask for an extension, or if you weren't granted an extension, requests for extensions should be made, if possible, before the deadline, or as soon as you realize that it's going to be an issue or you're not going to be able to submit the paper on time. Usually I include in my late policy something about how this should be for medical reasons or documentation will be required, but under the current circumstances, I don't want to require that. It could be that you don't want to go into the doctor's office, especially if we see another spike in COVID cases. So I'm not asking for that this time. And I also recognize that sometimes you might need a late or an extension for reasons that aren't the kind of thing that you would go to a doctor and get a note about. So, and that's okay. There's all kinds of reasons, things that can happen in life. Life is busy, life is complicated. If you realize that you're not going to manage to get this paper submitted by the deadline, please write to me and let me know. We can work something out. My office hours. Okay, every week I'm going to set up in the Quirkus calendar a bank of 10-minute appointments from 2 to 3 on Friday afternoons that you can sign up for. So when you sign up for a 10-minute appointment through the Quirkus calendar, then you would meet me at that time in the Blackboard Collaborate course room. That's my plan. So please show up to the Blackboard Collaborate course room at the time of the appointment you've signed up for during my office hours, and try to wait until that time to come in, because I might be speaking to another student in the course room, or I might lock the course room so that other people can't come in, so that we can have a confidential conversation if it's about a paper or something like that. So if you show up to your office hour appointment and you can't get into the room, that might be the explanation, and just wait until the time of your appointment or a few minutes after, because it might run a little bit late with the previous appointment, and then you can come into the room at that time and we can chat, which I would be very happy to do. I hope that I will be able to chat with all of you at some point, and see your faces. Or not, you don't have to turn on your video. Just speaking is great. Okay, course communication. I will try to respond to emails within 24 hours during the week, but probably not over the weekends. Discord. Here we go. I've got the invite link here that you can click to join the server, and I have included here my request that you create an account or a new account with your University of Toronto email address, to help keep this separate from the rest of your flourishing online life and give you a little bit of privacy. Okay. And then in the syllabus I included a community agreement for discussion. So these points I found on the Teaching Assistants Training Program page, and I just wanted to give us like a starting off place for kind of setting the tone or the feeling that we want to foster in our course community. I want all of us to feel welcome and comfortable participating. And so there are a few things we can do as a group to try to encourage that. I have included in the syllabus, feminist work is a bit of a challenge, and I have actually a longer blurb at the start of the syllabus, if you've read it, about this, about the how exciting it is, but also how uncomfortable and actually enraging it can be to read feminist work that you disagree with. And we might disagree with that for different reasons. Some of us might not have thought a whole lot about feminist issues before, at least not in this kind of context, reading feminist philosophy like this. And we might think that the feminist philosophers are kind of over-exaggerating certain things, and be kind of annoyed for that reason. Others of us might be quite steeped in feminist theory already, and already thinking a lot about these things online or in life or studying it. And we might be frustrated for other reasons, for things that theorists are leaving out, blind spots that the theorists themselves have. We want them to push farther and talk about more things, or in different ways. So there's lots of reasons for being kind of annoyed with feminist theory, and we want to recognize that the things we're talking about in this course, although we will be engaging with them at the level of theoretical philosophical inquiry, we're also talking about really concrete things. We're talking about things that are really personal, our personal sense of gender and sex. This can touch us deeply, and in a really concrete way. And so we want to keep that in mind as we talk to one another. We might be coming from very different places in terms of thinking about these things, but also in terms of our own personal experiences. So we want to think a little bit before we speak. So, a few starting thoughts about creating a welcoming community. One of them is respecting other people in terms of giving our undivided attention to the person who might be speaking at a certain moment. That really applies to the synchronous discussion groups on Friday. Openness, being open and honest, but also trying to protect the privacy of other people we might be talking about. And this was actually something in this TATP community agreement that I hadn't really thought about, and that I appreciated being pointed out, that we might want to be a bit careful about telling stories, because we might talk about situations that we know about ourselves or other people, but it might be a good idea to frame that as, I know somebody who, rather than identifying that person like my older brother does this or something like that. Just something to keep in mind. The right to pass is always okay to say, I'd rather not, or I don't want to answer, with the one exception of if you are using the synchronous discussion group for your participation grade that week, then I would like you to speak in response to the prompt. However, if the prompt for the week is something that you would rather not answer or engage with, first of all, you can always participate asynchronously by posting something on the Discord text channel, which has a lot more freedom to choose what you post for that week. But also, if you would like to participate in the synchronous discussion, but for whatever reason you'd rather not engage with the prompt that I've given that week, you can always write to me and I'll try to give you an alternative prompt, something that is a better fit just at that moment. I'm very happy to do that. In general, if you find that some of the things we're reading are difficult for whatever reason for you to engage with at that moment, you can choose how and when you do that, and if it is something that's required for an assignment or the exam or participation and you'd rather not engage, write to me and we'll come up with an alternative. Yeah, no explanations needed either. You don't have to explain why you don't want to engage with a certain thing a certain week. You can just tell me that you don't, and I'll be more than happy to find something else. Okay, sensitivity to diversity. Yes, we as a group will be coming from different cultural backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and expressions. So we want to keep that in mind when we discuss together. Acceptance. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's actually quite natural, I think, when we read feminist work. As I say, so it's something to try to embrace when we feel discomfort about the things that we're reading, and to pay attention to, because it might be a sign that we want to think critically about what that person's saying and develop our own arguments about how we think the conversation might need to change or what direction to go in. Have a good time. These are as difficult as it can be. Feminist topics are enormously exciting, and it can feel like, as I write earlier in the syllabus, that sort of curtains are pulling back in a way that you didn't even realize they were closed. I've had my own experiences like that in feminist work. I'll probably tell you guys about them at some point, but and then finally, to think a little bit about if you're a frequent participator, making room for other voices. And then if you're somebody who is not participating too much, again, this applies mostly to, I think, to the synchronous discussion, to share your voice, step forward and share your perspective. Whoop, the camera. Okay, so just quickly, the rest of the syllabus, there is information on getting to our Quirkus page. The philosophy department has actually set up a helpline for Quirkus. If you have issues, you can go there for troubleshooting help. Academic integrity, very important to understand. Whenever you are drawing upon another source, you need to cite it. And if you are giving a direct quotation from anything, something online, another paper, it absolutely must be put in quotation marks and given a reference. If not, you are claiming somebody else's work and presenting it as your own, and that is an academic offense, a very serious one. So learn what academic integrity requires and then follow it. Accommodation requirements. Please let me know if there's anything I can do that would help to make the course more accessible. I'd be more than happy to work with you to try to find a way to make things work well. Mental health and well-being. There are some resources listed here. Particularly these days, I mean, it's always the case that schoolwork can be stressful and that life can be stressful and all kinds of different things can be going on. But it's important to know that the university does have resources if you need them. And then religious accommodation. If something falls on a religious holiday, for instance, that I have missed, please just let me know ahead of time and we can figure out how to address that. Okay, that was the end of the syllabus. It's a long one. Thanks for sticking with me talking through it. If you have any questions, please let me know. Once you get on the Discord server, there is a channel for questions. You can ask me there. You can write me an email. Or you can book an appointment during my office hours. I'll have them this Friday coming up, and then next Friday as well, every Friday. So you can come and say hello to me. I would love it. And you can ask me whatever questions you have. And if you're encountering any difficulties, we will figure it out. Okay. So I'll post further videos later this week, starting to talk about the content of the course, Ben Learner's The Hatred of Poetry, and the Adrian Rich reading for this week. Bye.